All right, here we are. We're back for Samuel chapter 19. We're going to go over just a quick recap where we've gotten so far. If you'll remember, we go all the way back, right? And Elkanah and Hannah, and he has another wife, and she's got all the kids, but he loves Hannah. She has no kids, and she says, "Will you please give me a baby? And if you give me a baby, I will dedicate that baby to the Lord and name him Samuel." Right? So then you go through the story, and we got all this stuff going on. There's some corruption, intrigue, affairs, murders, all sorts of stuff. It's like we've been going through a series on TV, right? All the different, the romance, all the stuff so far. So now we are in a situation where when we finished up last time, we were in chapter 18, and Saul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000s. And so, David is Mr. Popularity. He's not out there for the popularity. He's out there helping the people. He's just gaining their trust and their love. And Saul is on the downward side, right? And so he is starting to get really jealous of David. And we know that David and Jonathan is Saul's son. Remember we had the whole chart of all the people last time. So we have Saul's the king and his son Jonathan are in line. But David's already been anointed over here. But David and Jonathan are like best buds. You know, they're like shake and bake, from Talladega Nights. You know that movie.
Yeah. It's not the same movie, right? Yeah, it's the
Shake and Bake is Talladega Nights. Same guys, different movie.
Yeah, same guys. Yeah.
So then we see here that Saul was trying to trick David into having one of his daughters to marry one of his daughters, and he was like, "Yeah, then I'll set him up and we'll kill him." And then actually one of his daughters he did love, and they were in love with each other. So he was like, "Okay, fine. It wasn't the one I was hoping for. You marry her, go off. Yeah, y'all two can get married, and I'll still do my plot to try to take you out, right?" So we end chapter 18, which is where we ended last time. It says, "The commanders of the Philistines went out to make war again," right? "And when they went out, David was more successful than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was highly honored." So we see Saul continuing to downgrade, and David is continuing to upgrade, right? So if you're watching online with us, thanks for joining. You either found us through YouTube or bradflack.com/1-Samuel. That's where this stuff is being put as we march our way through the book of 1 Samuel, and we'll get to a place where we'll go through 2 Samuel. And by the way, I don't just randomly think of what we're going to do. Like I'm purposefully, we went through Genesis, we went through Exodus, we have the whole Easter series that we've done. We did the Christmas series. We talked about the Nativity and what Bethlehem means and all that kind of stuff, right? And then we're now, and we go verse by verse, chapter by chapter. And here we are, we're going through 1 Samuel. We're going to go through 2 Samuel after this. And then by the time we get to next fall, remember last summer we did the 14 apostles.
Yeah.
We did that one too. So by the time we get to next fall, we're going to get into Revelation. If we're still here. If we're all still here.
What we did last time, I remember 14 apostles was summertime. What we did last fall?
And then we started, we were still going through Exodus.
All right.
Yeah, we took a break. No, we started Exodus. That's right. We did 14 apostles, and then let's see. I can't remember. I can't keep track. We did Exodus.
Probably. Yeah.
Last summer was the 14 apostles, though. I remember that. But anyway, those are all on YouTube. You're welcome to go on there, except for the Genesis one. I wasn't recording back then.
Yeah, that was like 3 years. That's 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was 3 years ago. Yeah, and so I have all the information up here basically, but we didn't video it, so it's not here. So anyway, all that being said, we have, you've got the X and the Y axis of your chart, right? If you've got Saul here, Saul is going down, and you got David here, right? David's going up. Simple to understand. Now, what we have to think about is David. How is he contemplating the mere fact that he has already been anointed king? He knows that he is already going to be the king. So he has this current king, Saul. He's doing negative things, hurting, saying, plotting against him. Here we're going to see in chapter 19, he's trying to kill him. If you're David and you're on the rise in popularity, and you already know you're anointed king, and you have this old bozo over here who's on the downward, how do you restrain yourself from just saying, you know what, let's just do this thing?
Hey, how many other people know? Like, he's anointed, but like he knows
his family, and Samuel and God.
So not a lot of people.
Not a lot of people.
He's working for God.
So yeah, he's there to bring God the glory. He's not there to bring himself glory. He's there to bring God glory. And
only a handful of people know. How do you convince them? No, I swear to God, I'm supposed to be king. I swear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you tell 1,000 people? I swear to God, ask my brother. I was anointed. I swear.
Yeah. But he's not even promoting himself like that. No, I hear what you're saying. That's what I would be doing.
Yeah. Like,
right?
No, I swear to God, I was anointed. I knew you were there, but
Yeah. I would be. You know, I would be boasting it up. You know, I'd be trying to tell everybody, look what's coming. Here he is. It's right here. I'm coming the next one. Right? You don't see David doing that. And so, let's get into chapter 19, verse 1 here. It says, Saul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and to all his servants that they should kill David. So Saul puts out a hit, a burn notice against David. All of his workers, all of his people, and his son even, you're going to go out and kill David. Now, we already know that David and Jonathan are friends, right? We talked about that a couple of chapters ago. So we already know they're friends. So you can see Jonathan going, well, wait a minute, that's my buddy. What are we talking about? So Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted very much in David. They were buddies, right? And Jonathan told David, so he went over here and said, hey, friend, here's what's going down. My father Saul seeks to kill you. Therefore, be on guard in the morning, stay in a secret place, and hide yourself. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are. And then I will speak about you to my father, and what I observe, I will report to you. So he says, basically, let's go out into this field, this pasture, this rock outcrop, whatever it is. David, let's say there's like this little wall here. David, you're going to hide behind that wall, and me and Dad are going to come over here and talk. So that way I can talk you up, but you're going to be safe. You'll be hidden away, right? So they set up this plan together. And we're in verse 4. Jonathan spoke positively of David to Saul, his father. So he's talking him up. Dad, he's the real deal. He's out there, he's winning battles for you. He's out there, curbing the advance of the Philistines. He's the real deal, Dad. And he said to his dad, do not let the king sin against his servant, against David, because he's not sinned against you, and his deeds have been very good towards you. Like, why are you trying to hurt this guy? He's literally trying to enhance your kingdom. He's literally trying to enhance your life, your reign, your rule. Why are you so upset with this guy? He's not hurting you. He's not bothering you. Now, if I had to take a wild guess, I'd say David has probably told Jonathan that he's been anointed, but I don't know that. We don't see that in the scripture. It's not written in there. So that's just Brad's own thought. Because if they're best buds, they're going to talk. I mean, Mike comes across the street and tells me, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but
when you're close to somebody, you share, right? When you're close to somebody, you share. Jonathan and David are in a covenant together, right? So they share their lives. So he says, for he took his life in his hand and struck down the Philistine, talking about the Goliath, and the Lord made a great salvation for all Israel, that it turned the tide of the battle, so that they beat the Philistines because of David. And you saw it and rejoiced. You were happy about it. Now why then would you sin against innocent blood to kill David without cause? Like, what has he done? Literally, has he mocked your name as the king? Has he worshipped another king instead of you? Has he led a rebellion, an insurrection against you? Has he slept with your wife or taken one of your daughters without permission? What has he done?
Why is he after him?
Why is he after him?
I was wondering if I don't remember.
That's a great question.
I remember if I'm just not remembering.
Because as Saul rebelled from God, God allowed a demonic spirit to, the evil spirit to come on Saul and basically torment him. And Saul, as he's coming down and he sees David coming up, he attributes David for that, even though it's not David, but he attributes, and he sees, I think it was 17 or 18, he sees the Holy Spirit on David. And he's being tormented. So it's basically out of just petty jealousy.
Which was Goliath? Was that 15?
Goliath was, I think it was 17. Yeah, 17. So that was two chapters ago. So, yeah, it's just kind of out of a petty, jealous rage. He's being tormented. He's jealous. He sees David, young, good looking, on the rise. He sees that the power of the Lord has gone away from him. Hasn't been stripped from his throne yet, but he's on the way out. And he can see it. So what do? You try to drag everyone with you as you're on your way down. All right. So, verse 6. So Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan. You know what, son? You're right. He has been an amazing champion for us, the Israelites, and for me as the king. You're right. As the Lord lives, he will not be killed. In a moment of sanity, he realizes that he has nothing against David. Then verse 7, Jonathan called to David, woohoo, or whatever their secret call was to get him out from the hiding place. Yeah. And so Jonathan reported to him all these words. And then Jonathan brought David in front of his dad Saul, and he was in his presence as previously. And what that means is, what was David doing before? Do you remember? He was playing his little harp because he was helping. But yeah, so now he's in his presence as previously, in his good graces, in his court. He's not feeling like he's got to protect himself because David's plotting against him. He's playing the music, calming Saul down when he's being tormented by the evil spirit. So it's as it was, okay? And I don't know how long this lasts. This could be a month. This could be a year. I don't know how long this is. But apparently things get better for a little while, right? They were in conflict. David was probably between the ages of 14 and 18 when he first attacked Goliath. And here he's probably between the ages of 17 and 25. Still young. Still very young. But apparently he's bad to the bone because it says that when he goes out to battle, he takes care of business. And the soldiers fight for him. They respect him. They honor him.
So he's probably got good fighting skills and he's probably a people person.
Yeah.
People like him.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know how long of a time that we're in verse 7. But then we go to verse 8. Then, and I don't know how long until the then, but then there was war again. They're in battle. And David went out and fought against the Philistines. He fought with the Philistines. That's not with alongside them, but with against them. And he slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. So David's out here just slicing and dicing. Yeah. Go to verse 9. Uh-oh. Now an evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul. God allowed that evil spirit to come upon him again. And he was sitting in his house with a spear in his hand. You can see him. He's sitting on the throne, right? And he's got that spear in his hand. And he's got that torment. And David is out there winning accolades and woo, woo, yay, champion David, And so you can hear him coming back from the battle, and Saul is ticked again. And he has a spear in his hand, and David was playing the harp for him, playing the lyre. And then verse 10, then Saul sought to pin David to the wall with a spear. I don't know if he actually tried to jab him or throw it. Right. I get the impression he's trying to throw it. But he escaped from Saul's presence. He struck the spear into the wall, but David fled and escaped that night. I mean, it could have been that he, tried to get him and he got out.
This is the second time he did this?
This is the second time he's tried to spear him.
Yeah, he already did that with a spear.
Apparently, Saul's not very good with a spear.
Yeah.
Or David's just super wily.
Exactly.
Or both.
This is the second time?
This is the second time. There was a couple of chapters back he was doing the same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
He's got a problem with you. He tried to kill you twice.
Yet, you're in there just hanging out. You know you're the next king. You're with all the accolades. You see what I'm saying now? There's this situation where if David was living in his own flesh, what is likely going to happen? He's going to think, why don't I just take out this Saul guy, just get him out of the way? I'm the king. I mean, yeah. But he doesn't do that. He remains patiently waiting on, because he's, that's right. He's going to let him tear himself down. Because if David acts out of the order that God has set forth, then it will be on his own power, not on God's power.
Exactly. And he makes it to God's power.
And he wants it to be God's power, right? So, verse 11. So Saul also sent messengers to the house of David. Now, how many of you have seen the movie 300?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 300, you got to see 300, Rick. You got to watch it. Okay? Maybe we'll come over to Mike's watch it. Okay? 300 is a great movie. It talks about when all of the Persian army, hundreds of thousands, I think it was.
It's historically inaccurate.
No, the movie's not accurate, but it actually happened. It actually happened, though, where they were trying to squeeze in to go attack the Greeks. And they had to squeeze the whole army down into a little tiny narrow pass between two mountains. Between the mountain, there was basically the oceans on this side, and then a little narrow alleyway between the rocks here. And so that means all this mighty, massive army had to squeeze into single file line to get through there. And so the Greeks knew that. And so they said, well, we're going to set up camp in the little alleyway because there could be a couple hundred of us, there are 300 of us, and there's a 10,000 or 100,000, whatever it is, of them. But they have to all fit into single file to get through here. So we'll just take them one at a time, and we'll just kill them one at a time. So when they first started that movie, there is a messenger or an emissary, an ambassador from the Persian Empire. Do you remember? He shows up on his horse and he says, he will let you keep your lands if you'll just bend your knee down and praise and submit. Xerxes is the Lord and the king of this area. We'll let you keep your lands. And that's when he was like, what do you think this is? This is Sparta. Kicks him in, whatever. So those guys are the messengers, but they're not just like, I'm skipping into town. Hey, I got a message for you. Like, they're the harbingers of doom.
Oh, but no, you're not allowed to kill a messenger, by the way. That's how crazy the Spartans are. You're not supposed to kill a messenger.
Right. But these are not just mailmen that they're sending in. These are messengers of doom. You come and go ahead and willingly submit, or we will send our force of our army and we will make you submit. Okay, so let's go back into the passage here. You go to verse 11, chapter 19, verse 11, and it says, Saul also sent messengers to the house of David. He's effectively sending assassins. He's effectively sending people who mean him harm. He's not sending like, hey, telegram for David from King Saul. Yeah. Yeah, this is not a like, oh, look, I got a big check, This is bad. This is bad. The king is sending these people. Do you see that now? This is not like, hey, come on down. We're having a party. Like, he's sending messengers with a distinct message. And what's the message? So let's look at it. To watch him and to slay him in the morning. That's a pretty distinct message. We're going to watch you for a while, and then we're going to kill you. I don't think that they're not coming in peace.
Think about that. Kill them, that means you're watching them sleep.
Yes.
Wow. When I watch you snore,
Yeah.
they're gonna kill you
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
wake up.
So it's pretty messed up.
It'd be really creepy
Okay.
before we
So
do it.
again, who sent the messengers? Saul. Is he in his right mind? No. He's being tormented by the evil spirit. Okay. So he's already messed up, and he's sent those guys to do that. But Michal, the wife of David, do you remember who Michal is related to?
Saul.
Saul's daughter. Right? It's Saul's daughter. Don't forget that. The wife of David told him, saying, if you do not save your life tonight, honey, tomorrow you will be dead. So she recognizes that they're being watched. And she says, you got to get out of here, babe, because they're coming after you. Okay. So Michal let David down through a window, the old bait and switch. Okay. She let him out a window and he ran away. And he went and fled to safety. Maybe he went back to the same safe spot that he went to whenever Jonathan was talking to old Pops, right? I don't know. Maybe he went to a cave. We know later throughout the Psalms and later in Samuel, he writes a number of Psalms while he's being chased and he's hiding in the caves. And it's during these times. So the Psalms, a lot of those are written by David. It's because he's being chased by Saul unjustly. How are you letting this happen to me, God? But even in my hard times, I will still praise you. That's David writing those things while these are happening to him. He's writing those in the Psalms. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. People don't know that.
Yeah.
They're like the Avengers. First Samuel.
This is his diary. It's David's diary. Even though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm being hunted, I will still follow you, my shepherd. You are the one who puts me into green pastures and provides for me. You're the one who gets me next to the babbling brook and not the sour waters. You're the one. So he's writing these things as like a, God, I don't understand what's happening. I don't like being chased. I don't like being nearly speared against the wall. But I have these.
Twice.
Yeah, twice so far that we know of, right? So yeah, if you read the Psalms, think about that in a little bit different light. That's David kind of writing his diary between him and God while Saul's chasing him. It brings a different twist to the Bible. All right, so he ran to safety. Verse 13, Michal took an idol and laid it in the bed and put a braided goat hair pillow for its head and covered it with clothes. Two main things you want to hear here. This is the bait and switch. I get David out of the house. I'm going to put, the Ferris Bueller's Day Out. I'm going to put the fake thing here, right? But notice, what did she put in the bed? An idol. Oh, so maybe David's house is not perfect. Maybe David's house isn't perfect. Maybe.
So she's trying to make over something in the bed? Okay.
But she used an idol. That means there has to be an idol in the house.
Oh, I see.
And if they're trying to replace a grown man in a bed, that tells you that idol wasn't a little idol. It's a big idol.
Yeah, statue or some kind of something like that.
And so what that tells us is that Michal, I don't know how you pronounce it exactly. Michal, I don't know. It's probably precursor to Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, when she was being raised by Saul, from the time Saul was made king to when he had her and then raised her, he had idols. He must have had idols in their house. And you know where that came from? Because Saul had multiple wives, and some of them were from the surrounding area. They weren't the Israelites. And what did God command Joshua and the Israelites to do as they came across the Jordan River at Jericho? What did he tell them? Do you remember that? That's all the way back in Numbers, but in the book of Joshua. We didn't cover that. But what he says is go into the land. Don't just live amongst the people there. Wipe them out. Every man, woman, and child. Get rid of them out of the land. And they didn't do that. They didn't follow God's command. And so what happened is, instead of cleaning off the table and having a new start, they just assimilated and mixed together with the existing idol worship culture that was there. We are called in the New Testament to be in the world, but not of it. Israel was called to be in the world, in that strategic piece of land here between the connections of Europe and Asia and Africa, the crossroads of the majority of the world for the majority of the time that we have had people on the earth. That's the crossroads of everything. They were supposed to be in the world, but set apart, different from it. And instead of cleaning that slate off and getting rid of every man, woman, child that was there, the idol worshipers, they just mixed together with them. And we do that a lot in our culture too. I was just listening before I came here. One of my favorite bands is Skillet. They're a Christian rock band. Their music's really good, if you like rock music. And he has a podcast that he does. It's like almost weekly, I think, or maybe a couple times a week. And it's called Cooper Stuff. It's really good. And he was actually talking about there's a big, deep rot in the Christian music industry right now. There's actually Christian artists who are denying their faith, who are allowing and inviting in, outspoken and unrepentant homosexuals and transsexuals and all these drag queens and transvestites. They're using curse words in their music. They're saying things that are suggestive, innuendo. They're dancing as if they're shaking their body in sexual manners. There's this huge, deep rot in Christian music. And why do you think that is? Because they're not in the world, but not of it. They're in the world, and they've just assimilated. We do the same things. We watch TV shows. We watch movies.
Yeah, I don't watch G-rated TV.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, there was a flash of some skin there, but that's just part of a rated R movie. Yeah. And I'm guilty of it.
It is, but yeah.
I'm guilty of it. Oh, that movie's it's a really good movie. His every other word's an F-bomb. You just kind of have to overlook that. And we really shouldn't be entertained by that.
I noticed a lot more. I mean, I always noticed this, but especially since I started doing the Christian thing a few years back, is the GD. People were saying it being a lie. I'm not telling you, a lie.
Yeah.
Sometimes I noticed it more, and I was like, wow. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
It's brutal.
You watch just people, YouTube podcasters saying, or YouTube guys just talking about whatever.
Right.
You hear a GD or two or three, and it's Tony. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really common speech now.
Right. So even somebody who we see is following after God, following His plan, he's not perfect. He's got a big old idol at his house. Big enough to replace him in a bed.
Yeah. It's a cool idea to make it look like he's in bed, but why do you have an idol that's as big as you?
Bingo.
In your closet.
Yeah. Wait, time out. You have a huge idol to replace me? Whoa, babe. Where you? I'm sure it wasn't. He's probably. Something that big. It's not like she's like, oh yeah, that's in the back of my closet. Like that's big. You don't just.
Yeah. It's the size of your head.
Yeah. So I just wanted to pull that out of the text. It doesn't say all that we just talked about, but when you go between the lines here, think about that. She put an idol in the bed to replace her husband's size. They have a huge idol in the house. So things are not perfect at House of David. Okay? So just know that. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, oh, he's sick. He's in bed. He's got a little tummy ache. He's got a cough. He's got a fever. Whatever it was. He's sick. So Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, bring him up to me in bed that I may kill him. Now, here's They're there to kill him. Oh, he's got to tell me, like, oh, okay, we'll come back later to kill him. Like, who cares if he's sick if you're there to kill him?
Yeah, so it's hurting, so you put a knife in it?
Yeah.
Wow. You kill him in a gentle way?
Yeah. Oh, no. Let's let him get well, then we'll kill him, you know. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not saying that, but read it. That's what it's saying. It's insane. So bring him up to me in the bed that I may kill him. And when the messengers came in, there was the idol in the bed with the goat hair pillow for its head. Busted. So Saul said to Michal, his daughter, remember, why have you betrayed me? Because this is the dad talking to his daughter. Why you betrayed me, baby? Why did you do that? Besides the fact I'm trying to kill your husband. Yeah. Why have you betrayed me and sent away my enemy so that he escaped? You made it harder for me to kill your husband. Why did you do that? It's really a very narcissistic, selfish question. He's not thinking about her at all. Not even a little bit. And Michal said to Saul, to her dad, he said to me, let me go. Why should I kill you? So he's saying, your dad's coming on a rampage. If I go, maybe it'll pull the killers away from the house. If I stay here, they'll kill me and they'll kill you. So why should I stay here and let them kill you too? I'm going to go. Whether they said that or not, I don't know. Okay. Now David fled, and he escaped and came to Samuel at Ramah, and he reported to him all that Saul had done to him. So I got the map today. I found it in the closet. We used this a while back, but I'll pull it up again here. So let me see if I can. My artwork is amazing. But I got this color picture here. All right, so
You can put on your board and flip it with that.
well, but it's I think it may have some angle on some light bouncing off of it. All right, so David and Goliath fought over here. The Philistines are typically all down in here. Okay, the Philistines are all over here. And if you remember the tribes, there's 12 tribes of Israel. Dan was originally given this piece of land right here. And Dan, after a while, said, I'm tired of fighting the Philistines. We want to move.
Yeah.
And so they moved him way up here, the furthest away from everybody. All right, so we see here, here's Bethlehem, here's Jerusalem, here's Bethel. Remember we talked about Bethel being a high place that they were worshiping God there. And nearby Bethel, just nearby here, just south of Mount Ebal, is the Ramah. That's where Samuel is staying. It's a little town called Ramah. Okay. Now, I have the notes here. Let me look here. So Ramah, when you translate it, it literally means it's a high place.
What?
Ramah,
Yeah.
it's a high place.
That's what it means?
That's what it means.
It's a high place?
It's a high place. So David goes to, it's a high place, to meet with Samuel. And Samuel, listen to me. Here's what Saul did here. Here's what this and this. And I fought the armies here, and then this was happening. He tried to spear me, So he's telling Samuel everything. Now I don't know how much Samuel does or doesn't know. We know that when he anointed David, and then he chastised Saul publicly, and then it says that he retired, right? Like he literally was like, "All right, I'm out. I'm going to go retire. I'm going to the high place. Okay, I'm going to Ramah." And so I don't know how much word has trickled up to Samuel. I don't know what he knows and doesn't know. So I don't know if David's telling him stuff that he's heard and confirming it, or if it's all first-time news. Okay, I don't know. So he reports to him all that Saul has done to him, and he and Samuel went and stayed in Naioth. So Naioth translates to the prophet school or seminary. So there in Ramah, maybe just on the edge of the hill or whatever, there's a seminary. Now, Samuel, what is his job? What was his role?
The judge.
Well, he was the prophet of the Lord. And so he has a school that is to teach other people the ways of God. And that's what Naioth means. It's like seminary. Okay? So here we are in verse 18, that they went and stayed in Naioth. So he says, you know what? This is interesting. Let's go talk to my seminary students, and let's talk about what's going on here. What could God be allowing this to happen? Why might this be happening? Let's pray, and let's see if God gives us a word together here. So verse 19, it was told Saul, they were saying, David's at Naioth in Ramah. He's over at the seminary, over there at the high place. This is like a bunch of little elementary school kids tattletelling, right? So verse 20. So Saul sent messengers to take David. So here they come again. I don't know if it's the same ones, because the other ones got tricked by the wife with the idol in the bed. They might have been killed. I don't know, because they're like, seriously, you let this girl trick you with an idol? Like, come on, guys. You got to do better than that. Or it could be the same ones. I don't know. So, and so it says, when they saw the company of prophets prophesying or preaching, in some translations, you'll see it, they're prophesying the Lord, the message of the word given to them. And Samuel taking his stand over them. So Samuel is basically kind of directing traffic. You got people preaching and people talking, and he's kind of directing traffic there. And so when they saw the company of all these people here, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also started speaking about God. So here's the example I'm going to give you here. So we've got, a village. I don't know exactly what it looks like. This is the high place, Ramah, right? And let's just say over here, for whatever reason, we've got the seminary.
Those are the outhouses on top.
This is the seminary over here, and there's almost like this. This kind of ring around this thing, right? There's almost this ring around this thing, and it says that as those guys were approaching, they were coming up the road. They got here. They crossed that line. They started preaching too. Yeah, let's go back and read it. Verse 20. Saul sent messengers to go take David. They were in the seminary, right? And when they saw the company of all the prophets prophesying and preaching, and Samuel was over them, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers, and they started preaching too. So, who has the power? Saul or God? God didn't smite them down. He didn't kill them. He said, I know you're coming up here to do evil, but I want you to do something for good. Why don't you preach something a little bit? Okay? So, Saul sent messengers again a third time, and they too prophesied. They came within that distance, and they saw what's happening, and boom, they're preaching too. When is Saul going to figure out this is not working? This is not working. Then he also went to Ramah. So Saul says, you know what? Fine, I'm going to go. If you can't send somebody to do it right, you're just going to go do it yourself, right? I'm going to go do it myself. So he went to Ramah and came to the great well that is in Siku. And he asked and said, where are Samuel and David? So let's just say there's a water well over here. I don't know exactly where this is, but let's just say there's like a little water well here. And so he comes over here. He says, hey, guys, I'm on my way to find David. He's apparently at the seminary. Can you point me in the direction of the seminary? And they're like, oh, yeah, he's right over here. And one said, oh, yeah, they're over here. They're at Naioth in Ramah. And so he went there to Naioth in Ramah. And, verse 23, the Spirit of God came upon him also.
He wasn't immune.
He wasn't immune. And he went on and he prophesied until he came to Naioth in Ramah. He stripped off his clothes And he also prophesied before Samuel, and he laid down naked all that day and all that night. And therefore they say, is Saul among these prophets? Wow, look at Saul's over here. He's taking it seriously. He's ripped off his... Yeah. Well, so in the Jewish culture, the ripping of your clothes and stripping your clothes off is a sign of great sorrow and pain and righteous anger. And so he's there prophesying, and so he didn't just rip his jacket. He went and got naked. So he understands how unholy he has been, and he's basically like, I'm going to be naked, I'm going to be on my face, and I'm preaching, God's speaking through me, and I'm preaching, and they're like, wow, look at Saul over there. He's like really serious about this thing, man. Is he like one of the new prophets now or something? What's going on over here? God is not concerned about our plans. He's not concerned about our schemes. Did he say, David, y'all set up a perimeter and get archers ready for those messengers they approach? No. They saw that those people were doing God's work, and God said, you do it too. You start preaching. Oh, more messengers? Y'all preach too. Saul, you're coming here? Okay, great. You can preach too. God gave them great mercy, because he could have just said, once you get within that range, it's like a landmine, you're dead, and I'll wipe you out. But he didn't. He gave great mercy. Mercy is not getting what we do deserve. And he gave them great grace, getting what they don't deserve. We go back to our Exodus study. What was on top of the Ark of the Covenant?
I remember a mercy seat.
A mercy seat. Why was there a mercy seat on top of the Ark of the Covenant?
It's like a throne, but to mean merciful. Like God's merciful, right?
That's right. To not get what you do deserve.
Yeah, so show God's mercy, right?
That's right. Because the throne room, remember, that if you walked into the throne room without the invitation of the king, you're dead. And so by calling it, instead of saying it the seat of power, he called it the mercy seat. And by it being a mercy seat, he was saying, you don't deserve this. And I deserve to kill you, but I'm going to let you come here and be in community with me. And he's doing the same thing here. Do you see it? It looks different, but he's doing the same thing here. He's saying, I could easily wipe you out, but I'm giving you a chance. I'm giving you grace. I'm extending great mercy. Don't do the negative thing. Don't do the bad thing. How many times in our lives have we thought about what we're going to do, scheme, okay, I'm going to do this. My wife's going to leave, and so I can look at this and this and this. Or mom and dad are gone, so I'm going to go grab these dollar bills out of their wallet so I can go buy some alcohol or drugs, or whatever the case is, right? I mean, how many times have we schemed for our sin? And he could have just said, yeah. And so it's like, God's like, what you do deserve, but I'm going to give him another chance to think about it and repent and come back to me. And so here we see Saul 2 times by messengers and 1 time himself. He's got an opportunity to say, what am I doing here? I'm trying to kill David. David's done nothing wrong, except he has a giant idol in his house, but whatever.
Well, look what his wife's going on.
He's done nothing to cause me that I should go try to kill him. And I've been so vicious at trying to kill this guy. Maybe I'm in the wrong. He's given them time to think about that. God seeks redemption, reconciliation, and rebirth. He wants to see us come to a place where we recognize our sin, give an opportunity for us to turn away from it and to worship him, to speak his words. They weren't running around saying their own things, were they? They weren't running around singing lyrics to old Beatles songs. They were preaching his word, his message. That's what he calls us to do. 1 Samuel chapter 19. Next time will be 1 Samuel chapter 20. See you next time.